The former head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak, was released from the pre-trial detention center on Monday on bail of 140 million hryvnias, thus spending a total of 3 days behind bars. In the end, people from all over chipped in to raise the bail money, even though it seemed like Yermak had everyone in his pocket, but for some reason, no one rushed to save him. But today it became known who and how the bail for Yermak was posted. And you will be very surprised at how toxic Yermak has become even to his own inner circle, and especially to President Volodymyr Zelensky's circle. In this episode, we'll discuss who chipped in for Yermak's bail, why it was so hard for him to find legitimate money, and how, according to investigators, instructions were being handed out in the president's office to collect money, but in such a way as not to be exposed as having ties to the now toxic former official from Zelensky's office. And at the same time, it suddenly becomes known that Timur Mindich has filed a lawsuit against the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. We'll also discuss what it was over and why in this episode. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, like the episode, and leave any comment you want. And friends, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link is in the description of this video, as well as in the video description. There is also a link to my exclusively Ukrainian language YouTube channel. So if you want to watch my separate episodes in Ukrainian, be sure to go over, subscribe, and support the brand new, exclusively Ukrainian language YouTube channel. In this episode, I'll quote material from the journalist and investigator, editor of the publication Mirror of the Week, Inna Vedernikova, as well as insider information about who and how Yermak was released from the detention center. But first, let me give you the hottest news about this case. The person involved in the Mindich case is a businessman who has been sanctioned by the decision of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. Timur Mindich has filed a lawsuit in the Cassation Administrative Court of Ukraine. He is demanding that President Zelensky's decree be declared unlawful. He claims that the sanctions against him are illegal and demands that the imposed restrictions be lifted. The main defendant in the case is listed as the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, and apparently he is now the former friend of Timur Mindich. It looks like the most interesting part of this case is just starting. But as for Andriy Yermak, let me start from a bit further back. As Vedernikova writes, after the charges were brought, the former head of the president's office, Andriy Yermak, and his lawyer, Ihor Fominiev, didn't sleep for 4 days because they needed to find money for bail. But here's the paradox. Yermak and his lawyer had a whole 6 months to prepare the bail with clean money. After all, the first searches at Yermak's place were back in November last year, after which he resigned from the president's office. However, no one lifted a finger, and according to sources, Yermak was sure that he would not be suspected of anything. Andriy Yermak felt safe, and what happened on the day the suspicion was announced came as a shock to him. After the suspicion against Yermak, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, did not explain anything publicly. He did not defend him, did not distance himself directly, and did not take responsibility for the person who had been his main management tool for years. And next, I will quote the journalist Vedernikova. The body, of which Yermak was a part, cast him off like a lizard sheds its tail, without saying a word. The system got the signal. No one who could have come to support Andriy Yermak showed up at the anti-corruption court. No friends, no subordinates grateful for the posts they got, not even those loyal just yesterday. Relatives, as the lawyer clarified, Yermak himself did not want to see in the courtroom. In front of dozens of cameras, the former all-powerful head of the president's office sat alone. A cell in the pre-trial detention center was thoroughly prepared for Yermak in advance, according to the publication quoting Vedernikova. Of course, Zelensky was able to arrange a separate cell in the detention center for his friend. Tatarov made sure of it. It's clear that Yermak had a phone and even his own guard at the door. According to our sources, even a humiliating inscription next to Yermak's surname with the name of a bird, which in the prison hierarchy definitely doesn't make life easier. It was left by Alexander Dubinsky before sending him to the men's colony, in the 1st and 5th walking zones. This phrase was immediately painted over. That's a lot for a boss, and very little for a friend. Zelensky was working on the bail. He had everyone scrambling, demanding they find money, assigning tasks. In other words, he did everything except the main thing. He didn't contribute to the bail himself. He didn't set an example. He didn't risk his own money. He didn't want to get his hands dirty for his friend. As a politician who for years sold the image within the system of a guy who keeps his word and stands by his own, but he didn't find it, or rather, he didn't want to, and the system picked up the signal again. In the end, look at what happened. Neither Sergei Shefir, nor David Arakamia, nor Kirill Timoshenko, nor Yuri Golik, and so on, rushed to defend Yermak. Here's another quote. But the main conclusion is clear. The corrupt system couldn't quickly come up with clean money even for itself. People who managed hundreds of billions from the budget, international aid, and back-office channels couldn't quickly gather 140 million in legally sourced hryvnias for a person who was considered the second most important in the country just yesterday. This isn't a banking day glitch, it's a system breakdown. It showed that it was held together not by loyalty or a common fund, but by fear. Yermak appointed hundreds of people to lucrative positions from which they will leave much richer than they came. But no one rushed to transfer anything to him. That's how toxic he is. As a result, the president's office decided that since Yermak is a lawyer, his colleagues from the legal field should symbolically post bail for him. But even here, something went wrong. In the end, a list appeared of those who paid for Yermak, and this list shows that they were looking for money all over the world. By the weekend, 7 companies had posted more than 94 million hryvnias in bail, but that's still not enough for the full amount. And then later, 30 million hryvnias more. The contribution was made by a forensic research institution. This is a private organization from Kyiv, founded in 2017. Until September 2025, it participated in tenders of state institutions and municipal enterprises for conducting forensic examinations and research. Well, that is, it worked with the government apparatus. Another 4 million hryvnias were contributed by the law association Advocat, which is headed by Yaroslav Kutz. And back in 2016, he was already an expert on the crime talk show The Viewer as a Witness on the Ukraine TV channel. A company from Dnipro, specialized construction and electrical installation management, contributed 32 million hryvnias for Yermak at once. In 2017, this company was mentioned in a police criminal case regarding possible laundering of criminal proceeds and tax evasion. A little over 10 million hryvnias was also paid by the private enterprise SV Group, which is engaged in car trading. The law firm from Kyiv De Legilata contributed 14 million hryvnias, and an additional 4 million hryvnias was contributed by the company Arena Marine. This is a logistics company from Odessa with an authorized capital of 40,000 hryvnias. In addition, 7 individuals also contributed to the bail, among whom the most prominent is Serhiy Rebrov. You all know who he is. He contributed 30 million. Volodymyr Petrov from Islandia TV contributed 80,000 hryvnias for the bail, and Yermak's lawyer Ihor Fomin contributed 5 million hryvnias. And I'll finish this episode with a quote from Vedernikova. The whole country has already seen it. There are no untouchables. Guys, you can be touched too, even if for now, only one of the pillars of your system spent 4 nights in pre-trial detention. The system no longer guarantees safety. Not for Umarov, not for Shefir, not for everyone else who, just yesterday, considered it their personal armor. Right now, they're sitting and watching all this thinking, who would put up my bail, and how, if something like this happened to the second person in the country? I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with any donation using the links and details provided. You can find them in the description of this video or by using the QR code on your screen. And let me remind you, subscribe to my Ukrainian language YouTube channel as well. The link is also in this video's description. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.